right, this is the Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, and Public Service. This is Monday, May 1st, 2017. We're at 6 p.m. I have Councilor McKinnon.
Here.
I have Councilor Della Sola.
Here.
And I have Councilor DePiero.
Here.
We have three members present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand. Salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start, I have two regrets. Councilman Fred Capone is unable to attend due to a prior family commitment, and Councilor Michael McLaughlin due to medical procedure that was done. Wish him well at home. Please read the first item.
All right, the first piece of business. This is a resolution up by Councilor McKinnon to increase police patrols at Walgreens and Glendale Package Store to stop loitering and harassment.
I have a memo from the Chief of Police, Stephen Mazie. It says, Glendale Square Plaza with Walgreens, etc. The Everett PD has been conducting directive patrols of this area. Per your request, be advised that this area receives a lot of police presence across all three shifts, as it is in one of our downtown areas. As it relates to panhandling, we do not receive many complaints from residents, nor are we observing many of these interactions at this location while we are there. I spoke to Nicole Reynolds, a property assistant, to Hunter Ross, the property manager from Kimco Realty, and they are making a good faith effort to hire a security company to be on site in the early evening hours starting at 4 or 5 p.m. into the early part of the night to help alleviate any concerns that the city may have. They will be in contact with us as they roll out this plan. Anything on this, councilors? Councilman Della Sola.
Just a comment. I did get a couple of calls on this, and I've heard people talking about the issues we've had in front of Walgreens. I just wanted to know who was watching tonight that this is just the beginning, and we're not going to let this go. And as a committee and all our councilors who are not here tonight, we'll keep an eye on this and continue making it safe out there for everybody. Thank you.
Councilman DePiero, anything? Seeing none. On this, what I'm going to ask is that we grant further time, have the property manager on this come up, Hunter Ross, and just explain what they're going to be doing. So we'll have him back here next month, but we definitely need him up here on that. So what I'll do is grant further time on this piece. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 2.
Item number 2 is a resolution up by Councilor McKinnon to invite the Fire Chief Tony Colley to the next public safety meeting to discuss the predatory actions of companies that show up to fires.
We have the city solicitor in the audience now. Could we bring her forward?
Make a motion to invite our city solicitor up.
Motion made and seconded to invite the city solicitor up. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Hello,
Good
could you
evening.
just state your name and title, please?
Colleen Mejia, City Solicitor.
Thank you. Where we read a statement that came out of your office, I'd just like to reiterate your thoughts on this, what we're trying to do, or what we were going to try to do on this. We heard from Steve Sapino and also Chief Tony Carley on this, and we just needed legal guidance on it to see if we could do it. And I think there was something that we should hear from you, so that's why you're here tonight.
I think, so I have a concern about the constitutionality about banning or regulating the adjusters from coming into the city. However, in the memo, if you recall, I did talk about, I'm sorry, your question was for licensing, I think, right, or banning them.
It was actually, I think what we were looking to do was narrow them down to like
Okay,
a
yeah, a
select
certain
group
number.
of 3.
And that was so I think what you can do is you can require them to register, maybe with the chief of police or or the city clerk or something. I don't know how you would enforce it. I think it would be difficult for the city to enforce it. But it is something that would be a way for us to monitor, legitimate adjusters or other types of
What a-
businesses coming in rather than, unsavory characters.
Yeah, and what about bonding? Because I know that the chief and also Steve Sapino had stated that it might be feasible to have these companies bonded like we do with other contractors that come into the city.
Yeah, I think we have companies, we can ask them for their insurance coverage, for a proof of insurance upon registration. When they come in to register, they can provide, if they're a legitimate company, then they would have some sort of liability insurance. You
So
can ask
the-
them for a copy of their liability certificate.
So they would have to have it on file probably with us at some point.
Yeah, I think that's something that you could ask, but for limiting the number or things like that, I would just worry about the legality.
Chief, if you just state your name and title for the record.
Anthony Carley, Chief of Department.
Thank you for appearing tonight. The question that we're talking about is bonding and limiting the amount of people or registering them with the city that can go out for the boarding up and stuff like that when there's a fire and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Again, just with the city solicitor speaking on that, excuse me,
Is that on, Chief?
I believe so.
All right, thank you.
I don't know about limiting, I mean, we know the companies that show up. As it is now, I think the bonding is probably the best way to protect our
Residents?
citizens with these issues.
Yeah.
And as we see new ones coming, we can always, Fire Prevention Bureau or incident commanders can explain that, they need to have that bonding or a registration system. So as we see the numbers grow.
Would we as the council, could we put something into effect to where it would mandate that they have to have the bonding?
You can draft an ordinance. I just don't know how it would be difficult, I think, to enforce.
Absolutely.
I think, you may have 15 different individuals show up, and maybe only 5 of them are registered. And there's really, who's gonna be there to monitor who's gonna be registered and who's not, so it almost would have to be on an honor system. I just don't know how it would be difficult to enforce. I think it's a good idea, I think it's good to protect the residents, and I think to have it on the books. If you have legitimate companies coming in, and they know this is on the books, they're gonna come in, and they're
Hey, could you do that again?
they'll come in and they'll register, but,
I'm just seeing which way we should go as a committee for this to come out into the regular council meeting, so, go ahead, Councilman Delasola.
I'm just curious, if you have, let's say, 5 businesses that are bonded, and the next day, someone's house burns down today, let's say, and a different company who's not bonded calls that resident, for some reason has the number, they could do that and still use them even though they're not
Yeah.
bonded?
Yeah, it's a private transaction between a private company and a private resident. So it's not,
So we could bond it, and you have nothing to lose by bonding them. I mean, some people might say, well, I can't go when I'm not bonded, or like you said, they're gonna come in anyways. So it seems to me, I'm not a pro on this, but it seems to me either way, they're gonna come in, but you might scare some off
yeah, I think,
by saying you have to be bonded.
yeah, I think it's a good policy. I think it's maybe a good deterrent. However,
It may work and may not.
the enforcing it is, I don't know that you can mandate a private homeowner to, not go with a company that he wants to go with for whatever work he wants to provide.
Well, our goal seems to be just the night of the fire, harassing the people. The
Yeah.
next day, I'm not saying we're not worried about it, but whatever happens, happens, and them getting phone calls, but it's during the fire, and they're worried about their house burning down, you got people saying, hey, here's some papers, you wanna fill these out, I can do your insurance job, do your insurance on your house. So our goal seems to be just the night of the fire itself, is to control it. So if we do a bond and it doesn't work, it's
At least it's something
something there.
on that paper.
Thank you.
You all set, Council?
Thank you, yes.
Councilman DePiero?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great idea. My only concern is, like we said, is, protecting the people immediately when the house is, going up, so to speak. But the only problem is, my concern is immediately after the fire. I mean, that house has to be boarded up, as the chief can elaborate if he wants, due to safety and people trying to get in the home and so forth. So that's only the catch-22 here is the only concern I have. Thank you.
And the council brings up a good point. We could, if we start a bonding process, there could be a time when none of the people that show up are bonded,
Yeah.
right? So if we have 5 of them,
What it-
and that 6th one does show up, do we say, no, he can't, or do we don't want to get involved and discourage it?
There should be, what we probably, we're leaning on is, we wanted the legal aspect of it, we wanted your aspect of it. It's good to hear these questions because it's a flip side to it. Maybe if we had a paper that you can give these individuals and say, these are the bonded companies, these are the only ones that are bonded in Everett, but these other ones here, if they show up, I mean, they're not bonded for us in Everett, but,
We give a lot of information to the homeowners, and barring any type of, legal reasons we couldn't do that, we wouldn't have a problem adding
yeah,
that to a package.
I don't see it as a big ordeal, but, I mean, I'm just,
And anybody is free to use who they want, but we
Sure.
just want to make sure they have an added security.
this would be like a security blanket for them. You have the call chasers that are running out there, and
Absolutely,
they're having these guys, I mean, I watched it myself, that's why I know.
yeah,
Come out, sign the contract, oh yeah, he doesn't even know what he's signing.
yeah.
And I told him, put the brakes on that, buddy, because, you don't know what you're signing right now and your house is burning down.
Yeah.
So,
I would just be careful in terms of recommending or giving a list of contractors. It's something that we shouldn't be doing.
what if we just stated that they're bonded? These are the bonded ones that we know of.
If you're gonna require these companies to register with the city, you can keep a list, which would be a public record. You can keep a list of all the companies that come in to register, whether they're board-up companies or public adjusters or contractors, whatever.
It would be a whole list, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
but and if they're hiring, if a contractor goes to the site and says, you know what, you should hire me to fix your property, they have to pull a permit, and the building code requires a lot of different insurance and licenses and things like that. So there is an extra layer of protection under the building code.
Sure.
I don't know if they need a building permit to board up the
I'm
windows.
not sure, because they're not making any alterations to the building.
I think it's
A lot of
just
times builders do this on the side, but for the most part, I don't think so. And a lot of these board-up companies are builders.
I'm gonna have a Assistant City Clerk, Sergio Canelio, come over for a minute. Just for the sake of asking the question.
Don't know if I can be a help.
Well, we'll see.
Yes.
You've helped before, so maybe this time you can again. If we were to lay this over, grant further time, and then have you guys work this out for a ordinance, a written ordinance, would we be able to do that? And then would the city clerk's office, because they have different type of licensings that they have to look after in the city anyway. I mean, could this be one of them or no?
I think it would be whoever you choose to oversee it.
So it could be
There's
them?
That's up to the ordinance, yeah. Well, if, there's no reason why the city clerk's office can't help draft an ordinance. We will obviously check with the attorney
Both of
with
them.
any language, because, yes, with the fire department and the attorney, anytime I write any ordinance, it's always checked over by the legal department.
Sure.
Department to make sure that we can constitutionally do it.
Well, if anyone else has a motion, my motion would be to grant further time on this, draft the ordinance coming out of the Assistant City Clerk's office, have legal and fire oversee or check it out, and draft the ordinance if you can, and then at the next meeting, we'll come back and we'll do that.
So moved.
All right, so what we'll do is, we'll have the Assistant City Clerk draft legislation, have both fire and city solicitor.
Can you give us a few weeks?
Yeah, it'll be probably a month,
All right, good.
within, maybe a little longer. Sure.
Okay.
We got budget and stuff like that, okay. So it's sometime in June? Probably in June, Would that be long enough?
That's okay with me, I don't know
Would
about.
June be fine?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll draft an ordinance, and we'll grant further time now, so. And then just have a finished product. If we could have a finished product in June, that would be great. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 3. Excuse the customary thanks. Thank you for appearing.
Item number 3, this is a resolution up by Council McLaughlin to invite the Police Traffic Division to the Public Safety Committee meeting to discuss the traffic flow at Sweetster and Centilly circles.
I have a communication from our chief. I'm going to read it. Seeing that Councilman McLaughlin's not here, we should probably grant further time, but he's going to need to reissue invites to these people as well. Traffic patterns on Centilly and Sweetser Circle are hard for us to comment on, as they are both state roadways that are not under our jurisdiction. The Mass State Police are responsible for responding to accidents or road work conducted on those rotaries in conjunction with the Mass Highway Department. Additionally, both these roadways have been the subject of talks that involve work being done on them. The Everett Police Department is not the best source of information on these issues. So I would ask for a motion that we grant further time, but invite the state police and a representative from Mass Highway.
So moved?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 4.
All right. Item number 4, this resolution up by Council Simonelli to consider putting up memorial benches up and down Broadway on a passing veterans, city official, and police and fire department.
I see Tony Souza. Could you please come forward, as well as the councilor and his representative? And could we have the chief of staff before us as well? Gentlemen, if you could just state your names and titles for the record, please.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff for Mayor DiMaria.
Tony Sousa, Director of Planning and Development. Tony Sousa, Director of Planning and Development.
And Shane and Stephen Simonelli, Councilor Simonelli.
Thank you. Councilman Simonelli.
So regarding the idea of proposing to put benches up and down Broadway as the main thoroughfare of Everett, we think it's a good idea to honor people who have served our city and our country, as well as police and fire, and possibly some of those people that have paid the ultimate price in serving the city. And we think it's a good idea that the city officials should honor them for their service and to our country and to our city. So first of all, with that being said, what is your opinion of this resolution? Is it possible? Are you aware of any other communities doing some similar initiatives? Pretty open-ended.
I wouldn't be aware of any other cities or towns that do that, but Tony might be more aware of that. But the mayor does think it's a good plan, but I think we have to come out with a more extensive plan about how to go about it in terms of, because the city simply just can't. I mean, how do you decide to decipher who gets a bench, who doesn't, things like that. So we're kind of more thinking along the lines that if family members or community groups or anything want to propose a certain bench be placed somewhere and donate the bench, we would certainly be willing to do the ceremony based on, on that criteria. Because, I mean, we have a long list, and I know Surge is, they're putting together a list of recognizing all the deceased councilors. I mean, the numbers would just be astronomical when you start gauging everyone who served, whether it be in the military or the city government, or just for, was employed by the city. I mean, that would just be an extensive, possibly exhausting list. But on the surface, it is a great idea that we're fully behind.
Sir Souza, do you have anything to add?
Certainly. Just to add to that, and certainly from planning development, be happy to look at what other communities have done, and perhaps there's some type of policy or so, procedures, so we can make this happen.
Yeah, I
Councilman?
mean, I think the counselor would be very interested in helping to further this idea and help mold it into something that could be implemented, but,
Oh, absolutely. We do keep this discussion going, come up with a plan, but it's a great idea.
yeah, and I think, you know, along the lines of, you know, if you identify a person and maybe there's a donor for each individual bench that, you know, provides for the maintenance and upkeep of it. So that's kind of what we were thinking as a and also to maybe put a bronze name tag in the place, or to honor the person. So I guess at that point, you know, Counselor.
I have other questions,
Oh,
actually.
sure, yeah, he was gonna open it up.
Councilman DePiero?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just actually want to commend my colleague, Councilor Simonelli. I think, in essence, this is a great idea. The intentions are just as good. I mean, you think about it, you drive up and down Broadway, people are sitting on people's property and walls as it is, more public seating, and it's a nice way to honor those who have given so much to this community, but I understand the administration's concerns about funding, and going forward, I'd be happy to assist in the planning in any way I can as well. Thank you.
Councilman Delasola?
Again, echo the words of my colleague. I think it's a great idea. Could we just put let's call it a package together, of what the cost of the bench would be, and the plaque, all engraved, so we know if somebody wants to donate money to a bench, or if you want to pay for the bench, you know, okay, I gotta put up $500. So whatever the total cost would be for the bench, to put the plaque up, to install it. The
Oh, yeah,
maintenance, I don't think would be, not kind of bench you're talking the metal ones that we have laying around. I think the maintenance wouldn't be any cost at all, maybe 5 years down the road, maybe paint it, but other than that, I think it would just be the plaque and the bench itself.
Yeah, I think, you know, working together collaboratively, we could certainly come up with a plan that would be very effective, low maintenance such as that. You know, this is first discussion, so obviously it's in the infancy
Right.
stages, but it's certainly something that shouldn't be all that difficult to proceed on and come up with a valid plan going forward.
Right. I like to be involved if, doesn't mind, that'd be great. And even if the person, let's say you were a councilman years ago, or whatever it was, and you wanted to be in your ward where you grew up, the bench can go in your area where you grew up, also kind of represent
Oh,
where you
sure, yeah.
represented itself.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm just throwing ideas out there.
All set, Council?
Yes.
Councilman DePiero?
Just have one more question, Mr. Chairman. If you don't know off the top of your head, Mr. Souza, that's fine. I know in a lot of the new parks, we build benches of, you know, to this extent. Do you have any idea what the cost of those benches are at this moment?
The, typically, for the city standard bench that we've been using, without a plaque, it's about 1,200. And the plaque itself, now that varies in price and so on. So that's a ballpark.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question from the chair, if it's okay. The plaques themselves, could we have the families maybe donate the plaque to the bench that they're doing, something to that effect? That might be a way to go about it.
Perhaps,
To
yes.
where,
Yes.
you know, it would be, it would be the cost of the family too, that would want it on there, so that's just one way to go about it, but I'd like to see what you come up with
Yeah.
other cities, because I think they have a number of plaques on a number of different benches in some of these other communities, so that would be great. Great idea, Councilman Simonelli.
Yeah, one other thing the counselor said is, he was recently walking around Deer Island and he saw in Winthrop, they have the benches dedicated, so maybe that might be a place to look and kind of see how they approach that.
I've seen this.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are nice.
And I guess the motion is to request further time on the resolution, and roll it over to the next public service meeting.
And additionally on that, from the chair, why don't we have, why don't you form something up to where you guys can actually talk about it, if you just want to be involved with it, so.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, and I'd be happy to have those talks with Councilor Simonelli in the future.
All right, so we'll grant further time on this, and we'll have additional talks on this. We'll invite everyone in the chamber here tonight that's here, and all right, so, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, you have done so.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
Motion made and seconded
All right,
to
thank you.
adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.